Most people assume secrets fade with time. They imagine truth dissolves like fog once the sun rises long enough. But some secrets don't dissolve, they calcify. They grow sharper, harder, and more dangerous the longer they stay buried. Mine was exactly that kind of truth. And the only person who had the right to hear it was my stepbrother, Evan. For nearly 10 years, we'd lived under the same roof, shared the same table, the same family vacations, the same holiday photos where our smiles looked genuine even when nothing else was. Evan and I weren't close at first. He was the perfect son, the kind teachers adored and neighbors trusted. I was the quiet one who learned early that silence kept people from asking too many questions. Silence had been my survival. But silence also had an expiration date. It began cracking the night Evan found the old locked box under my bed. The box I thought I had hidden well enough that no one would ever see it, until he did. I came home after my late shift that night to find him sitting on the edge of my bed, the metal box resting on his knees. He wasn't touching it, but that didn't matter, he knew. And I felt my stomach fall so hard I almost threw up. I didn't open it, he said before I could speak. But I think, whatever's inside is eating you alive. His voice was soft. Too soft. The kind of soft that made me feel exposed. I hated exposed. Why were you in my room? I snapped. He flinched, looked away. Your door was half open. I thought someone broke in. I just checked. I wanted to believe he was lying. It's easier to be angry than vulnerable. But Evan wasn't the type to snoop, at least, not for fun. He saw things, sensed things, felt things more deeply than most. And for 10 years, he'd been patient with me in a way I didn't know how to be patient with myself. Don't touch my stuff, I muttered, grabbing the box. He didn't stop me. Didn't defend himself. He only said one thing. The thing that broke me open and set everything else in motion. I think you're scared someone will find out who you used to be, he whispered. But maybe you're more scared I'll see who you really are now. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Because he was right. No one, not him, not my stepdad, not anyone, knew the truth about where I came from. They didn't know why I changed my name, why certain dates made me panic, why I never let anyone stand behind me, why nightmares dragged me awake night after night with my heart racing and my hands shaking. They didn't know the real reason my mother had married his father. They didn't know what we were running from. Evan looked at me like he was begging me not to shut down. Please. Just tell me what happened. But telling him meant turning the lock in a door I'd kept sealed for years. It meant reopening wounds I had no intention of touching again. It meant explaining the photograph inside the box, the photograph I could barely look at without shaking. Still, something in his eyes disarmed me. Maybe it was the desperation. Or the care. Or the fear I saw in his expression, the quiet fear of someone who had spent years trying to understand me and failing. Someone who needed the truth not out of curiosity, but because he cared too much not to. I sank onto the bed beside him. You want the truth? I whispered. I do. He didn't move. Didn't blink. Just waited. So I began. But not with the big reveal. No, first came the beginning. The part no one ever asks about. The part that builds the monster before the monster destroys everything in its path. I wasn't supposed to grow up in a house like this, I said softly. With stability. With safety. With a parent who loved me. Evan frowned, confused. My childhood wasn't the kind you talk about, I continued. It's the kind people avoid talking about. His posture stiffened. My biological father wasn't a father, I said. He was a storm. A violent, unpredictable storm my mom and I lived inside for years. Evan swallowed hard. I told him about the shouting, the smashed furniture, the police visits. The nights Mom and I slept in the car because inside the house was more dangerous than outside. I told him things I had never spoken aloud, not even to myself. You were so young, Evan whispered, horrified. I was 8, I said. Old enough to remember everything. The memories came back sharp, fast, unrelenting. Mom tried to leave him 6 times before she succeeded, I said. And every time, he found us. Evan's hands tightened on his knees. And then I told him the part one had tried so hard to erase. The last night, he came home angry. Drunk. Worse than usual. He grabbed me first. Evan froze. He didn't just hurt me, I continued. He planned to take me away. Permanently. Mom fought him, really fought him, for the first time. She bought us just enough time to escape. The words tasted metallic. Heavy. He went to prison, I said. Mom changed our names. That's why you never found any baby photos. That's why I never talk about my childhood. Evan's jaw clenched. Anger flickered across his face, not at me, but for me. For what I lived through. For what I survived. But I wasn't done. This was the part one feared the most. The truth isn't just about him, I whispered. It's about what happened after. He tilted his head slowly. After? I opened the box. Inside was the photograph. His breath hitched when he saw it. A smiling man. Warm eyes. Gentle posture. Not my father. But the man who saved us. The man who promised to protect us. The man who loved me like his own daughter. The man who died because of me. That was the truth I had never told a soul. And Evan? He had no idea what was coming next. Evan stared at the photograph as though it were a ghost. In a way, it was. The man in the picture, Daniel Hartman, had been the first safe person I'd ever known. The kind of man who genuinely smiled with his eyes, who never raised his voice, who spoke to children like they were full humans, not half-formed opinions. He was the complete opposite of the thing I had run from. And he had paid the ultimate price for knowing us. He wasn't your dad, right? Evan said quietly. No, I whispered. But he wanted to be. I had never said those words out loud. They felt foreign and familiar at the same time, like a song I had once loved but hadn't heard for years. My mom met him at a shelter, I said. We were hiding again. He volunteered there. He called me kiddo the first day like he'd been doing it forever. A soft smile tugged at my face, one of those rare involuntary ones that come from a memory untouched by fear. He made us feel normal, I continued. He helped me with homework. Baked me a birthday cake when Mom forgot what day it was because she was too overwhelmed. He took me to the park at night to show me constellations. He told me people didn't have to earn love, that love wasn't conditional. I swallowed. The burn was back in my throat. I didn't believe him at first, I said. But I wanted to. Evan's expression softened into empathy so deep it hurt to look at. What happened to him? He whispered. The question lingered like smoke. Heavy. Thick. Inescapable. I took a long breath. My father found us again, I said. Daniel was with us. Evan froze. He tried to protect me, I continued. It wasn't even a fight. It was just a moment, a second, one decision. And suddenly he was gone. The image flashed in my head like it always did. The scream. The crash. The uncontrollable chaos of it all. I shut my eyes, forcing the memory back into its cage. Mom and I ran before the cops came, I added. She didn't want me anywhere near the disaster. She thought I'd be blamed. Maybe she was right. Evan looked horrified. Blamed? Why would anyone blame you? Because I was the reason my father showed up, I whispered. He wasn't after her. He was after me. The silence in the room felt suffocating. I carried that with me for years, I said. The guilt. The belief that I had destroyed the only good thing that had ever happened to us. My hands shook. That's why Mom remarried so fast, I added. Your dad thought she rushed because she fell deeply in love. The truth is, she rushed because she needed us safe under someone else's roof. Someone the courts would see as a protector. Someone my father couldn't easily touch. Evan's jaw tightened. He looked like someone had cracked open the world he knew and replaced it with something dark and unfamiliar. So you weren't just moving in with us, he said softly. You were, hiding in plain sight. I nodded. And the new identity, he asked. Part of witness protection, I admitted. Not the full program, just the emergency tier for domestic violence cases. But it was enough. He stared at the photograph again, tracing the edges with his eyes. And you kept all this from us, he whispered. From you, I corrected. Your dad knew pieces. Mom told him some of the truth, but not everything. And me? Evan asked, voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. You were 15 when we arrived, I said. You were dealing with your own problems. Football injuries, exams, your parents' divorce. I wasn't going to add trauma to your list. He looked down, jaw clenched. You thought I couldn't handle it. I didn't think you should have to. The room went quiet again. For a long moment, it felt like the air had been frozen between us, heavy, cold, unmoving. I expected anger. Accusations. A demand for why I had waited 10 years to tell him. Instead, he said something I wasn't prepared for. You're not responsible for what your father did. I shook my head. Maybe not directly. No, he cut in. Not at all. His voice wasn't loud, but it was firm, anchored by a conviction I didn't know he had. You were a child, he said. You didn't make your father violent. You didn't make him chase you. You didn't make him hurt the people you loved. My throat tightened. I wanted to believe him. But guilt had become part of my architecture, woven into my bones from years of carrying it alone. It doesn't matter, I murmured. Someone died because of me. Someone died protecting you, Evan corrected gently. There's a difference. I looked at him, and for the first time, he didn't look like my stepbrother. He looked like someone who saw me fully. Someone who understood the depth of the wound I'd been hiding. But I still wasn't done. There was one more truth, the darkest one. The one I had buried inside the box so deeply that even I rarely let myself acknowledge it. Evan, I whispered, voice trembling, there's more. He straightened, alert, bracing himself. This isn't just about what happened in the past, I said. It's about why Mom panicked when you brought home an internship application last year. He frowned. Because it was in our old city? Because she knew who still lives there. He blinked. Your father? I nodded. But he's in prison, Evan said. Isn't he? For 10 years, I had been waiting for someone to ask that question so I could finally say the answer out loud. He was, I whispered. He isn't anymore. Evan's entire body went rigid. He got out early, he asked, almost in disbelief. On good behavior, I said bitterly. They released him 2 years ago. Evan stared at me, horrified. Does he know where you are? A long, agonizing pause stretched between us. I think, I said slowly, he might. Evan's breath caught. Recently, Someone has been watching the house, I added. A car idling across the street. A man walking past at the same time every night. Footsteps outside my window. He looked like his blood had turned to ice. Why didn't you tell anyone? He demanded. Because I didn't want to drag you into this, I whispered. This is my past. My mess. My danger. He shook his head hard. No. Not anymore. He grabbed my hand, the first time he had ever initiated contact like that. We're in this together now, he said. But you need to tell me everything. Every detail. Every memory. Every clue. And he didn't even know the worst part yet. The part that was coming next. The part that would change everything about who he thought I was. And about who he thought he was. Evan didn't let go of my hand, not even when I tried to pull away. His grip wasn't forceful, just steady. Determined. Like he understood that if he released me, the truth might slip away too. Tell me everything, he said again. But everything was a dangerous word. I drew a slow breath. Okay. But you need to promise me something. He nodded. Anything. You can't interrupt. Not until I finish. He hesitated, just for a moment, then nodded again. Because the next truth wasn't just about my past. It was about his. I sat back against the headboard and looked at him, not as my stepbrother, not as the boy who lived across the hall for a decade, not as the person who helped me with math homework or the one who always poured the first cup of coffee for me before school. No. I looked at him as someone who had been living a lie without even knowing it. My father wasn't always a monster, I began. When he was young, before alcohol took everything from him, he was different. Smart. Charming. Manipulative in a way that didn't look like manipulation. The kind of man who could make you feel special even while he studied every insecurity you had. Evan's brows pulled together. I continued, he had another family before he met my mom. That made Evan blink. Another? I raised a hand. Don't interrupt. Not yet. He swallowed his question. My father had a son, I said. A son he abandoned before I was born. A son he never talked about. A son he refused to acknowledge legally. Evan's eyes sharpened. A son. I nodded. Mom found out years later, I added. She saw the old marriage records, the divorce filings, the sealed custody documents. She confronted him, but he denied it. He said the boy wasn't his. She didn't believe him. Evan leaned in, listening so intensely his breath was barely audible. When everything happened, I continued, when the police came after the final incident, the investigators dug into his past. They pieced together what Mom suspected. I took a deep, trembling breath. The boy, the son, was real. Evan's throat tightened. Do you know what happened to him? Yes, I whispered. And this is the part one didn't know how to tell you. He froze. My father's first marriage ended violently, I said. Just like ours. His wife left him. Took their son. Went into hiding. The muscles in Evan's jaw flexed. The reason the case stayed sealed, I added, was because the child was given a new identity. Witness protection for minors. Evan's breath stuttered. Wait. I nodded slowly. He has a new name now, I whispered. A name you know. The color drained from Evan's face. I don't understand, he said softly, but I could hear the fear under his voice. Are you trying to tell me? Yes, I whispered. I'm saying you're the boy. Evan's expression collapsed. His eyes widened, mouth parting, breath caught halfway between a gasp and a denial. Every emotion flickered through him so fast it was impossible to track: confusion, disbelief, shock, fear, anger, grief. "No," he whispered. "No. My father is my father. He raised me. He." I shook my head. "He raised you, yes. He loved you. But he isn't your biological father." His hands shook. "My dad adopted me," he said, voice cracking. "He told me my mom left when I was little. He said she struggled. He said it wasn't safe for me to be with her. He said." "He didn't lie, Evan," I said softly. "Your biological father was dangerous. Abusive. Violent. Your mother ran to protect you. Just like mine ran to protect me." Evan looked like he couldn't breathe. I don't believe you," he whispered. I opened the box again. Inside the lid, taped beneath the photograph of Daniel, was a sealed document I had never intended for anyone else to see. Mom had given it to me only months earlier. "Your mom found me," I said quietly. "Last year. When she heard our town mentioned in the news. When she saw a photo of our family at a charity run." He stared at me, stunned. "She recognized you," I continued. "Even after all these years." Evan's chest rose and fell too quickly. "She sent this," I said, pulling out the paper. "Not to hurt you. But because she was terrified your biological father might have found you again now that he's out." His hands hovered in the air, shaking, unsure whether to take the document or run. "Read it," I urged. He didn't move. So I began reading it to him. The letter was short. Shaky handwriting. Ink smudged from tears. "Evan. If you're reading this, it means the truth has reached you sooner than I hoped. I never wanted to hide your father's past from you. I wanted to protect you from it. You were born into violence, and I fought like hell to get you out of it. You were only 2 when we ran. You don't remember the nights we slept in the car. You don't remember the bruises. You don't remember the fear. I carried it for both of us so you wouldn't have to. Your stepfather saved us. He saved you. He loved you enough to give you a new start. Please don't hate me for leaving. I left so you could grow up safe." "Mom." Evan's face crumpled. The paper slipped from his fingers. He stood up abruptly, pacing, running his hands through his hair, breathing too fast. I can't, this can't be true," he stammered. I rose slowly. I didn't want it to be true either. He looked at me sharply. "You knew for a year. A whole year. You kept this from me." "Yes," I said. "Because I couldn't destroy your world unless I had no choice." He shook his head. "And now?" I swallowed. "Now that my father might be back, you deserve to know. Because you're not just my stepbrother, Evan." I paused, letting the words settle. "You're my half-brother." The room went dead silent. Evan's eyes widened as the truth, our truth, finally broke him open. "You and I," he whispered. "We have the same father." "Yes," I said quietly. "We do." He staggered back a step, like the air had physically pushed him. Everything, his identity, his history, his family, had just been rewritten in front of him. "But that means," he whispered, voice cracking, "the man who hurt you, the man who nearly killed you, the man who destroyed everything, he's my father too." I nodded. "And he's not just from your past anymore," I said. "He's here, Evan." Evan's eyes snapped to mine. "What do you mean?" I took a shaky breath. "He sent me a note this week," I whispered. "And it had your name on it. Evan stared at me like the ground beneath him had disappeared. His lips parted, but no sound came out, just sharp, uneven breaths that sounded more like survival than breathing. He sent you a note, he finally managed. I nodded. It was slipped under my car wiper 3 days ago. What did it say? I hesitated. Even now, repeating the words felt like reopening a wound I wasn't ready to touch. It said, I whispered, you took everything from me. Both of you. Time to finish what we started. Evan went completely still. His voice dropped an octave. He knows who I am. Yes. He knows where we live. Yes. And he's watching us. Yes. Something changed in Evan then, something deep. Fear didn't vanish, but it receded behind something else. Something sharper. Steadier. Something like resolve. Why didn't you show me the note? He asked. Because I didn't want to drag you into danger. I'm already in danger, he cut in. You are too. And you're my. He choked on the word, then forced it out. My sister. The word shattered something inside me. I didn't tell you to scare you, I whispered. I told you because hiding the truth won't protect us anymore. He paced again, running a hand through his hair. We need to call the police. I tried, I said. They can't do anything without physical threats or proof. A note on a windshield isn't enough. It is when the man who wrote it nearly killed you, Evan snapped. Yes, but they need evidence, I said. And there isn't any. He's careful this time. Evan let out a bitter laugh. Of course he is. For a moment, the room felt too small. Too fragile to hold the weight of our shared past. Then Evan stopped pacing. His expression hardened. Then we're not waiting for him to make the next move, he said. We're going to make it first. I frowned. What does that mean? It means I'm not letting a violent man hunt my sister, he said, steady and sharp. And I'm not letting him destroy our family, again. His determination shook me almost as much as the truth I had revealed. Evan, he's dangerous. So am I, he said quietly. When it comes to protecting the people I love. My chest tightened. He had no idea how much I needed to hear that. Before I could respond, a sound outside caught our attention, a soft crunch of gravel beneath slow, heavy footsteps. Evan and I froze. Did you hear that? He whispered. I nodded, pulse hammering. Another footstep. Closer. Then a shadow moved past the window. Evan grabbed my arm lightly. Stay behind me. The front porch creaked. A knock, soft, almost polite. My stomach flipped violently. No, I whispered. No, no, no. Evan motioned for silence as he moved quietly toward the door, every muscle in his body taut. I stayed behind him, trembling, adrenaline flooding my bloodstream. The knock came again. This time harder. Who is it? Evan demanded, voice firm. No answer. Just breathing, slow, heavy breathing on the other side of the door. Evan reached for the doorknob. No. I whispered sharply, pulling him back. Don't open it. He hesitated, just for a second, then nodded. Instead, he grabbed his phone and dialed emergency services. Before the call connected, a voice drifted through the door. A voice I hadn't heard since I was 8. Open up, it said softly. I'd like to see my children. Children. The word felt like poison in my ears. I covered my mouth, choking on a sob. Evan's eyes darkened with rage. You're not our father, he said through the door. You have no right to call us that. A low chuckle. The kind that crawled under the skin and stayed there. Oh, son, the voice said, you look just like me. You can't run from blood. Evan's face twisted with disgust. You don't get to talk about blood, he said quietly. You forfeited that the day you laid hands on her. Silence. Then, a sound like a fingernail dragging along the wooden doorframe. What did she tell you? The voice asked. Lies? Stories meant to turn you against me? My mother left you because you were violent. Evan snapped. You almost killed a man protecting his daughter. Another chuckle. Colder this time. Ah, the voice murmured. So she told you about that. But did she tell you why? Evan tensed. Because you were a monster. No, the voice hissed. Because she was planning to take you away. Both of you. My heart nearly stopped. Both of us? Evan echoed. He's lying, I whispered. Don't listen. Oh, she didn't tell you, the voice said with mock pity. Of course she didn't. She never told anyone her little secret. Evan glared at the door. Enough. But the voice continued. You and your sister were both meant to come with me. She was supposed to raise you until you were old enough for me to take. But she betrayed me. Just like your mother. A chill ran down my spine so violently I nearly collapsed. Evan, I whispered shakily, he's trying to manipulate you. But before I could finish, police sirens wailed in the distance. The voice outside paused. Well, he said calmly, looks like we'll have to finish this another time. Footsteps retreated. Then silence. Evan flung the door open just as a dark figure slipped into the trees behind the house. Police cars screeched into the driveway seconds later. But he was gone. The aftermath. For hours, officers questioned us, took statements, scanned the property, searched the woods. They promised extra patrols, advised installing cameras, told us to stay inside until the investigation escalated. But it didn't feel like enough. Not when the man who shaped our nightmares now knew exactly where we lived. Not when the man who hurt us now knew we knew about each other. Not when the man who called himself our father had walked right up to our door. When the last patrol car left, the house felt too quiet. Too vulnerable. Evan and I sat in the living room, neither of us speaking for a long time. Finally, he said, we're not victims anymore. I looked at him, exhausted. Then what are we? Survivors, he said firmly. And survivors fight back. He reached over and took my hand again. But we don't do it alone, he added. Not anymore. For the first time in years, I felt something I didn't recognize at first. Relief. Because the truth hadn't broken us. It had bound us. Not as step-siblings. Not as accidental family. But as something deeper. As two people with the same past, the same scars, the same fear. And now the same mission. To end the story our father started. And reclaim the life he tried to steal from us. Together.